Throughout the history of the European Championships, the second most watched tournament in international football after the World Cup, no other nation has been so stacked with talented players, but at the same time so unlucky, like England. For so long, the Three Lions have flattered to deceive, and at the end of the day, we're left trying to wrap our heads around why they've never won the Euros. Well, I think we know why. After a season of so many fans not rooting for Arsenal to win the Premier League, it's time to focus on a new target. With Euro 2024 kicking off in June, let's talk about the greatest nation that's never lifted the trophy. The Three Lions have been in the game since 1968, and despite being favorites in many editions, they've never managed to get over the bump. Now with Gareth Southgate making the bold move of leaving out Manchester United star Marcus Rashford from his preliminary squad, has he dropped the ball? Only time will tell. But how on earth has a country that's produced legends like Bobby Charlton, Alan Shearer, Gary Lineker, and Harry Kane never conquered Europe? England's first go at the Euros was in 1968, and their confidence was through the roof. They just won the World Cup in 1966, so things were looking up. Just before the tournament in 1968, Manchester United became the first English team to win the European Cup, beating Benfica at Wembley. That squad had legends like goalkeeper Gordon Banks and Bobby Charlton, arguably England's greatest ever footballer. In their first tournament, England faced Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland in the group stage. They crushed it, topping the group and then facing Spain in the quarterfinals. They got past Spain but lost narrowly to Yugoslavia in the semifinals. The Three Lions ended up third after beating the Soviet Union 2-0, with Bobby Charlton scoring one of the goals. Not a bad result for a first-time appearance. In 1972, England was at it again, dominating the group stage. Greece and Switzerland got hammered, but in a twist of events, Malta held England to a 1-1 draw. Anyway, England cruised to the quarterfinals, but then West Germany showed up and gave them a beating. Oh, and the legendary Gerd Muller found the back of the net. Ouch. So, was 1976 any better? Spoiler alert, nope. England had some big wins against Czechoslovakia and Cyprus early on, but then they stumbled, losing to the Czechs and failing to beat Portugal twice. They crashed out in the qualifying group stage. That was to be all for the 70s, and England looked to the next decade for salvation. In the 1980s, we had 8 teams in the finals for the first time ever. England made it to the last 8 in Italy. They breezed past Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, Bulgaria, and Denmark to top their group. But then in the quarterfinals, the competition format got a twist. England was put in a group with Belgium, Italy, and Spain. They only managed to beat Spain in the final game, missing out on the semifinals. Close, but not close enough. Such a bummer. Where were the likes of Kevin Keegan, David Johnson, and the others? Things went from bad to worse in 1984 when England narrowly missed out on making it past the qualifying round by just a single point. With Bobby Robson being at the dugout, many fans expected 1988 to be a year of redemption for England, but it was the exact opposite, a total nightmare. Although they managed to make it past the qualifying stage, it was literally of no use as they didn't even get a single point from the tournament finals. It really sucked because there were some big names in the team. Gary Lineker, John Barnes, Chris Waddle, Glenn Hoddle, Tony Adams, and Brian Robson, who was the captain. And yet with all these big names, not a single point? Gotta be kidding me. By the next edition of the tournament, England had changed managers again, and this time Graham Taylor was on the bench. Gary Lineker was now the captain, and then there was Stuart Pearce and Martin Keown shutting the gates at the defense. Not to mention Alan Smith, Nigel Clough, and the young Alan Shearer on the attack. But yet again, this team couldn't make it past the group stage. Were they cursed? England have had enough, so they decided to host the next edition of the tournament. Now, this is one of the few that everyone remembers. Football came home in 1996, with England being the host nation. This was the 10th edition and the first to feature 16 finalists. They even changed the rules, awarding 3 points for a win instead of 2. But the real kicker, it was the first major competition to be decided by a golden goal. Germany beat the Czech Republic 2-1 to win their first trophy as a united nation. England actually did pretty well, making it to the semifinals. But in classic England fashion, they lost to Germany on penalties. It was a heartbreaker for stars like Alan Shearer, Paul Ince, Gareth Southgate, and David Seaman. I mean, take a look at the entire squad right here. It was stacked. But entering into the millennium, England kinda regressed when they could have picked up from where they left. At the turn of the century, England had arguably the finest squad on the planet. Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, David Beckham, Michael Owen, Paul Scholes, Robbie Fowler, and Steven Gerrard, but manager Kevin Keegan's team bottled it and didn't make it out of the group stage. Can someone explain why that happened? 2004 came and the tournament was wild. Greece, in their first appearance in 24 years, shocked everyone by lifting the trophy. The tournament saw major upsets, with Germany, Italy, and Spain all crashing out in the group stage. Perfect chance for England, one would think. But we were wrong yet again. They played an exciting 2-2 draw with Portugal in the quarterfinals. But David Beckham and Darius Vassell missed their penalties, sending England home. Looks like the Three Lions decided to enjoy their stay at home because they didn't even qualify for the tournament in 2008. Rock bottom. English fans would have been having a hard time with the banters and trolling at this point. Come 2012, Spain dominated again, successfully defending their title. England, determined to erase the shame of 2008, made it out of the group stage looking strong, with the likes of Wayne Rooney, Ashley Cole, Steven Gerrard, Theo Walcott, and Joe Hart all running the show. But unfortunately, they fell to Italy on penalties in the quarterfinals. Another tournament, another disappointment. When will this torture end? The Euros expanded to 24 teams, and many thought that this was finally going to be England's year. The group stage was a mess, with England scraping together just 5 points against Wales, Slovakia, and Russia. Then in the round of 16, they got knocked out by, wait for it, Iceland. Another one for the Hall of Shame. Okay, seriously guys, let's wrap this up with a deep dive into Euro 2020. It was a wild ride. Euro 2020 was special for so many reasons. It marked the 60th anniversary of the competition, and for the first time, 11 UEFA countries hosted it. Remember, the pandemic happened in 2020, so the tournament was actually held in 2021. Despite all the chaos, it turned out to be an exciting tournament with only 2 scoreless games and the most goals per match since the group stage format began. Now, this edition was a tough watch for all the haters. Given their history, not many expected big things from England. But whether it was the final being held at Wembley or the raw talent in the squad, England showed up determined, and it was exciting to see. With big names like Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, and Kyle Walker, they were driven to achieve what no other England team had done before, which was to actually win the Euros. England went unbeaten at the group stage against Croatia, Czech Republic, and Scotland. Some fans still weren't paying much attention because they expected the usual. But when Sterling and Kane secured a 2-0 win over Germany in the round of 16, eyebrows started to raise. England kept pushing forward and actually made it all the way to the final. Crazy scenes! Football was finally coming home. Wembley rocked when Luke Shaw scored an early goal against Italy in the final. The haters were sweating. But then Bonucci happened, and England went on to lose on penalties. Heartbreak once again. To be or not to be? That's the big question on every England fan's mind right now. There's so much to be excited about with this team. They've got seasoned players like Pickford, Bellingham, Walker, Rice, and Harry Kane. Plus, there's also a fresh wave of talent with Cole Palmer, Kobbie Mainoo, and Anthony Gordon. And don't even get me started on what to expect from Bukayo Saka and Phil Foden. The group stage looks pretty favorable too, with England up against Serbia, Slovenia, and Denmark. The Euro 2024 is shaping up to be an interesting tournament, and we've got high hopes for England this year. But what are your thoughts about England's chances this year?